Chef Jamie. Great question. So I actually come from a really sort of not unusual, but interesting background. I grew up in north central Ohio in a farming community, very, very, very small farming community. I had 1,200 people in my town, 54 kids in my graduating class from high school. And technically, my family didn't have a farm, but all of my extended family and those around us did have a farm. So I got to spend a lot of time with my grandfather and gardening and working in the fields, starting at a very young age. My parents were excellent cooks. My mother was a nurse and my father worked highway construction, but they loved to entertain. And so my sister and I were surrounded by that constantly. They didn't have a lot of money to go out to dinner, so they would cook dinner. And my dad came from a huge family, an Irish family, had 9 brothers and sisters, so lots of cousins, lots of aunts and uncles, things like that. But both my sister and I, from a very young age, were surrounded by that love and appreciation of fresh, the whole farm to table thing that's come about in the last 10 years is, when you grow up on a farm, it doesn't really, everybody has the buzzword of farm to table. It's like, well, yeah, that's life, but it's not for everyone. Not everyone understands that. So that push has been good. I think being exposed to taking things that seem so simple and putting a creative spin on them when you're challenged financially, as far as you're not running out and buying the best seafood or the best cut of meat or anything like that. You're taking simple items and researching them and putting love into the dishes, and that definitely has been my inspiration, and which comes directly from my parents and my grandparents. Craig Claiborne and Julia Child were a huge part of our home growing up. We had those cookbooks around, and I can remember Julia Child on the TV and watching with my mom, which was always fun. And as a young child, we have pictures of, there was always that one little place in the kitchen that I was popped up there on the counter and tasting with my fingers or the wooden spoon, so to speak. But when I decided I wanted to be in the restaurant business, I started when I was 16. My junior year of high school, I sat with my guidance counselor, and she said, so where do you want to go to college, and what do you want to do? And I said, well, I want to become a chef. And that didn't really resonate with her. She just, where we were from, it was like, oh, you want to be a cook the rest of your life? So it was a challenge. But again, my parents were very, very supportive. And we looked at different colleges. We looked at the Culinary Institute of America and Johnson & Wales and International Culinary College in Baltimore. And my mom and I flew to Baltimore, and I loved the city. I think I loved the city because we came from such a small town, and I thought, wow, this is just such a great opportunity, to start the next phase of my life. So I went to college in Baltimore, met great people, was exposed to amazing seafood and culture, and while there had the opportunity to do an internship in Ireland. And so I got to work at the Park Hotel, which is in County Cavan, north of Dublin, with Peter Timmins, who's a master chef. Most recent, he was in the Greenbrier in West Virginia, and now he works down in Palm Beach. But just an amazing, amazing talent. And I think that was really what sealed the deal for me. Going into that internship, I still wasn't sure if I wanted to go into more of a management type role, innkeeping type role, or stick with the culinary. But he brought out so much from each of us that you couldn't wait to get home and finish college and get to work, so to speak. So then in 1990, I moved to Orlando. My sister had been here with her family for a few years. Not my first choice, to be honest. I really thought I wanted to live in South Florida, but there was a lot of opportunity here, and that opportunity blossomed quickly with the opening of my first restaurant in 1991. That was Mimi's Cafe and Wine Bar in the Sweetwater, Wekiva area. And the thought behind Mimi's was to create a neighborhood bistro, a gathering place. We had a beautiful wine bar. All of our entrees had pairings, wine pairings. You didn't see a lot of that in 1991, especially here. But with some great reviews, it just, quickly spread, and we had guests from all over Central Florida, which was awesome. And that's when we started catering. I have two partners with Cuisiniers, Connie Clark and Jackie Parker. Jackie's my sister, so we've got obviously share a lot of history together and love for food. So we started the catering, and then in 1998 we spun off into Cuisiniers, it's actually Cuisiniers, but locally they call it Cuisiniers. So we just celebrated 16 years in June, which we're very excited about. So am I an artist or am I a businessman? I think as a business owner, you, whether you're taught this or not, you wear many, many hats. And depending on the type of business you own, it's required that you're passionate about your industry if you're going to be successful and if you're going to be happy. If you're not passionate about your business, then you're never going to be happy at home. So in the culinary business, there are definitely different hats. The one hat that probably comes naturally is having an artistic flair. People definitely eat with their eyes, and in order to continue to keep your clientele interested, you have to change it up, and that definitely takes an artistic eye. Obviously, we're blessed now that there's amazing raw product everywhere. Whether it's grown locally or whether you have it flown in, it's readily available. So anybody can prepare a great meal. Those that have a little bit more of an artistic flair can prepare a fabulous meal. So chef, artist, accountant, marketing genius, these are things that are just so crucial, and things that 25, 30 years ago, these things weren't taught in college. There's just, they give you the very basics, and everything's evolved so much now. Just social media, for one example, is you almost need to go back to school just to stay on top of that alone. We were challenged by a company name. There was in 1998, people still used the Yellow Pages. So there was thought of, well, let's start with something that's earlier in the alphabet, because that's the way people shopped. We knew we didn't want to be a Yellow Page caterer. We wanted to take the reputation that we already had and build off of that, and we wanted to build our name through word of mouth. A lot harder 16 years ago, again, because we didn't have social media. So it takes a long time for the word to spread. In the spring of '98, when we were starting up with Cuisiniers, I had a phone call from Chef Frank Bro from the Disney Institute, and they invited me to come out and teach. And it wasn't something I felt as though I was ready to do, but I put a class together and I did it for the chefs, and they were impressed. And Frank said, "You're a natural, and please come on board on a part-time basis."
So again, I was surrounded by these really great culinarians, and so I started to research that. I worked in France and studied with Anne Willen at the La Varenne. So and we studied classical French cuisine when I was at the Park Hotel. So that was always an inspiration. So Cuisinier is French, and it is refers to culinarians, young culinarians, sort of all on the same page, striving for the same quality end product. So we researched it, and no one in this country was using Cuisiniers. So, and then we came up with the tagline, Catered Cuisine Events, which we just felt was the right fit. We came up with the logo, which is the blocks, you can see, and people, they just loved it. We came up with our business card, and it was just the expression on their face, and they knew the minute they received our business card that it was different, and that's how it started. So we were very excited. One party at a time. We all had other part-time jobs, part-time, full-time jobs for the first 3 years, and we just slowly built.